Welcome, everyone. I'm Jeremy McGovern, and I'm the conference director of the International Hoof-Care Summit, and want to welcome you to another live Q&A where we'll give you a little background on the 2023 International Hoof-Care Summit. And very pleased to be joined by Simon Moore today. And it feels like, Simon, we've been waiting a little bit for a while to get this accomplished, but thankfully, I think we're far enough past COVID, we can finally have you here.
Yes, yeah. It's been a tough couple of years, and I was so looking forward to coming last year, but with the restrictions that could have been coming in the UK, unfortunately, I had to pull out, and I'm just grateful to get the opportunity to come over next year, 2023, and present there. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, we're definitely looking forward to having you there. And we've always had a very good relationship at the International Hoof-Care Summit with presenters from England. And of course, this year we have the British Farrier and Blacksmiths Association coming over and exhibiting. And maybe for some background for our attendees here is tell us a little bit about your practice.
Well, these days it's quite a small practice. I mean, I've been shoeing horses for 34 years, including my apprenticeship. And primarily we was a training practice, really. I've trained numerous apprentices over the years, but recently I've stepped back a bit, to do other things like clinics and that type of thing. So now the practice is pretty small. I shoe 4 to 5 horses a day, 5 days a week, and a variety of different horses, from show jumpers to dressage to just general hacking everyday horses. So it's quite mixed, really.
And I think that's the great thing now that we're all able to get back together is, being able to talk to someone like you who, let's say I'm a farrier from the United States, and get a different perspective on shoeing elsewhere in the world. Yeah,
I've never been to the US, so I'm looking forward to seeing how different things are. I'm only used to what we do here, really. But really, shoeing horses is shoeing horses. The basic principles are the same, different styles for different disciplines, but when it comes down to what you need to do on a day-to-day basis, that doesn't vary, really. And my presentations, when I come out, will hopefully get that across, that you've got to do the basics and you've got to do X amount of things first to achieve the end result.
Okay, well, let's talk about those presentations, and we'll go through these linearly according to the schedule. And the first presentation will have you in a classroom talking about the use of synthetic material. And for those looking to plan their summit, this presentation will be on Wednesday afternoon, January 25th. Can you tell us a little bit about what you'll talk about in that presentation?
Yeah, really. I think synthetic materials have really come to the forefront in the last probably 10 years. For many years, when I was first practicing as a farrier, a lot of the materials are very basic. We just put steel on the end of horses' feet, and horses, lived and died, unfortunately, by those type of practices that we did. But the sort of research that's gone in, and the materials that we have to hand now in the back of our trucks, there's nothing you can't do on the spot. You can put inserts in, you can put pads in, you can put different packers, different shore factors, all of these different things to achieve the result that you need to get that horse sound or working to the best of its ability. So what I hope to do is just to present not only what products I use, but why we use them, because that's the most important thing. It's very easy to stick a 3D pad or an Ibex pad or something on the bottom of the foot. But what are you actually trying to achieve? And anatomically, what are you supporting and why are you doing it? Because, I come back to most of my presentations will start with anatomy. We have to understand how the foot works and how the horse works and the limb and everything before we can start putting things on the bottom to influence them. And one of the things that I found over the years is that new products come out, farriers try them, and unfortunately they put them on poorly. They don't understand the principles of them and the practice. And then the product gets the blame for being not very good. And it's actually our understanding of what it is and how to use it that is key. So that's what I'm going to try and cover, is what I use on a day-to-day basis to cover multiple of problems with different horses' feet.
If I can put you on the spot for one tip, let's take the use of adhesives. What is a common point of failure that farriers who are maybe a bit on the novice side of using that material might overlook in their use and cause that failure?
Yeah, preparation. It's all about preparation. Most of the products on the market, whatever manufacturer makes them, they tend to all come from the same place, really. There's a huge manufacturers of multiple different products. But if you don't apply the correct preparation in, whether it's using Vetec, where you must get the foot dry and clean and dry is their key. If you don't do that, then the products will fail. So that's the key for me is prepare it once, prepare it twice, glue it once, just take your time. We're always in a hurry to quickly get a bit of material on the side of a foot, where take that extra 2 or 3 minutes, 5 minutes to prepare it correctly, and it should be a lot better.
I think that's another good thing about being able to get back together and have these live events is not only the information you'll provide, but the time farriers can spend at the trade show and compare notes with the manufacturers, learn about better product usage.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you should listen to the manufacturer's recommended guidance, whether to use alcohols or acetones or, to clean feet or not. So talking to the different manufacturers and using their different products and how do they use them, but also I try and cover in the presentations I do is thinking outside the box, because sometimes you have to mix and match materials to achieve a particular problem, to correct a different problem, I should say. So yeah, you've got to stick to the rules, but sometimes you can experiment by different materials and different methods to achieve the result that you need.
Okay. Well, then going along in the schedule, the one that I'm really looking forward to is you'll be presenting on the research you conducted to earn your fellowship in the Worshipful Company of Farriers. Can you tell us about that talk?
Yeah, that's a passionate area for me, really. Something that I've been, not before doing the research, I was really, really sort of passionate about it. But then afterwards, it's now trying to spread the word. And one of the things, the main reason that I got into that particular subject was that I felt that farriers were destroying feet. And I use that word destroying with the use of a rasp by taking the toe back. All we've been told over the years is by veterinary surgeons and other farriers sometimes, and me when I was training and all through my early career, was get the toes back, rasp the toes back. And it wasn't until one day I was thinking, why? Why are we doing that? And actually, what are we doing to this hoof capsule, this encapsulated free-walled building, really? You've got the toe and the two sides, and you're taking one of those walls away, and weight is descending down, and we're wondering why feet are collapsing. Aesthetically, they look good for about a week or two, but then they all collapse and dip. And so I wanted to look into the hoof wall ratio. How thick should the toe be? Because when you're trimming feet, you look at the toe is thicker than the hoof quarter, the heel quarter. But how much thicker is it? What is the ratio between the toe and the heel quarter? And is it consistent amongst different breeds? So that's what I looked into. I looked into that quite extensively by looking at lots of different cadavers, measuring it, and finding if there is a sort of correlation between them. And then looking at the hoof wall structure. What are we actually doing when we rasp that horse's foot? What structures within that hoof wall are we destroying or removing? And that's what the research really got me onto. I won't say too much, because in case some people are listening and they're going to be there, but in a nutshell, to me, the hoof wall is a leaf spring. The toe is the thickest part, and it comes back to form because of that thickest part. And if we remove that too much, we remove the strength and we destroy the foot.
What I think is nice about presentations like this is Farrier is very much an industry based in tradition, but yet there's also a component that's looking forward, and that part that's looking forward, like your presentation will be in your research, is it's reinforcing, it's giving us, I suppose, when we get questioned by clients, questioned by other practitioners, here's more evidence-based research that can, I suppose, give more credibility to farriers and to cite this work, because unfortunately, without your work and the work of other farriers who are conducting research, it's one of those areas that's woefully underserviced.
Yeah, and the hoof capsule is the thing that farriers deal with every day. It is the one item that we can influence from the bottom, from the front, from the sides, by removing or adding material. So we need to understand how it works a bit better. And if we do understand how it works a bit better, then we can get a better outcome for keeping feet strong and performing to the natural function and the best that they can. So that was the main reason that I did this. And I always think it's quite a practical subject, although I wasn't shoeing horses while I did it, and it was very much a measuring research. The end result is, what can the farrier do by listening to my presentation do different going away from it? And I think if you've got something you can go away with from any presentation you see, you can think, oh, I'm going to try that. I'm going to think about that on the Monday, Tuesday morning when you go back to work. I think that's important. That's how I work. I'm very practical, simplistic type farrier, I'd like to say.
I should say for any of those who are on watching, before we talk about the next presentation, if you have any questions about what we're talking about, or about Simon's work, or even about the Hoof-Care Summit, feel free to type those into the Q&A field or the chat field, and we'll go through those as you type them in. Moving on, talking about research, we have Tim Shannon and Doug Anderson, both farriers from the U.S. who went through the program at the Royal Veterinary College when they had a cohort at the University of Pennsylvania to conduct biomechanical research. And what we've asked the three of you to do is sort of present a panel where farriers who are interested in conducting research and being part of that, whether it's with the Worshipful Company, the RVC, or I suppose even in their own pursuit, to help add to this knowledge. I think that's fairly straightforward, a panel where people can ask questions. And one that has to be on my mind is time dedication, family, work. Now you have to try to fit in this project. How did you do it?
It's difficult. It really is difficult. And I think that's why many farriers haven't done it over the years, but more luckily are doing it. There's a few stepping up to the plate now and doing it. But it's very difficult to find that time, because at the end of the day, to be quite honest, you're not earning any money out of it. It's not something that's lucrative or anything. So you're doing it through passion and a learning journey. I always say it was a learning journey from the beginning to the end, and it's still going. So you're on this path of learning, but you do have to be quite disciplined when you start any research. You have to be passionate about the subject. If you're not passionate about the subject, you won't want to do it. You'll do it half-heartedly. So my one was really passionate, and I was into that particular subject. And then you have to set time to do it, 2-3 hours a week, or a week, or 2 or 3 days, depending on the size of the project you're doing and that type of thing. But it was difficult, and it was a long road. And my particular research is quite small to some of the big researches that some of the other farriers, PhDs and masters and that type of thing. And it's something that I'd like to possibly go on to one day, but it's finding the time, and it really is a hard one to balance, really, and juggle.
Yeah. Now, of course, later that day, we have you in yet another presentation about the hind limb. So let us know, what do we have wrong about the hind limb?
This is probably going to be a bit controversial, and I expect to have lots of questions, and maybe people don't agree with me, and that's great. You know, at the end of the day, my theory on hind foot balance is probably different to a lot of other farriers. If you look in farrier books, farrier text, there is very, very little written about how to trim hind feet. There's lots to trim about front feet, especially the Worshipful Company, for instance, dress feet to the long axis down the metacarpal to the perpendicular for the hoof capsule. But they don't mention how to trim hind feet. We know we can't use a T-square on hind feet, but how do we trim them? What are we looking at? When we look down the limb, what are they actually looking at? What are they balancing that foot to? Is it the limb? Is it the bulbs of the heels? So I just looked at that and thought, what I was doing wasn't working. I was finding more feet were being distorted and overloaded on one side. And I find that the majority of farriers dress the inside of the foot down too much, because when they look down there, they think it's higher, but actually it's not. And there's a reason for that, because anatomically the hind limb is made different to the front limb. So you've got to look at anatomy then and think, what anatomically is different? Why can't we do what we do with the front end to the back end? And it's more or less doing like the opposite type thing than what you would do. So again, I won't go into too much because we probably haven't got time. I don't know the time restraints tonight, but it's looking at the reciprocal apparatus and how that works and how that affects what we do with hind feet when we trim them. And since I changed my way of trimming, my hind feet are looking better. They're nice and triangular in shape, nice and balanced. Shoe wear is even. So I decided to put my sort of neck on the line as such and do a presentation about it. And yeah, it's been well received so far. So hopefully it will continue.
At what point in your career did you start having these questions and thinking a little differently?
Funny enough, I think it's probably when I started doing my higher exams. When I first took my diploma, which is the sort of same standard as the CJF in the States, you tend to just go and shoe horses. You go out and you shoe, and you have a few questions, and you know, but that's it really. You get your head down and you do your job. When I started to do my associate, and then when I went on to do my fellowship, I kept questioning. When I went to a presentation and someone said something, or I met up and we was talking and someone would tell me something, I would say, oh, I'm not sure about that. I don't, I would question what they're telling me, not negatively, but start thinking about it. And that's when, probably about 10 years ago, I would say, I started to really think about, what am I actually doing here? What is, that's not working, but I keep doing it. So what's the solution? And that's when I started to think about the research of doing my fellowship, the hind foot balance and uses of materials and why we pack one side and not the other side and things like that, really. And I'm still questioning it now.
Yeah.
You never think you're done.
Right. All right. So as a final question, this is your first time coming over for the Hoof-Care Summit. What are you looking forward to the most?
Really meeting people, to be honest. I think you learn so much, me learning myself, by coming out there, watching the other presentations by the other speakers that are there, viewing the trade stands, but talking to people face to face, because that's when you start learning. And I guarantee that I'll come back with so much information that for myself, that you didn't go, oh yeah, didn't think about that, or I'm going to try this way, or or that way. And so it's really just being able to get together and do face-to-face live questions and talking and that type of thing. So, and as I say, I've never been to States before, so it's going to be a big learning one for me just to come over and see everyone.
Well, we're looking forward to having you. Thank you for joining us tonight, and thank you to everybody who's watching. And like you said, Simon, looking forward to finally getting past COVID and having you come over.
Absolutely. Look forward to it.
All right. So again, if there's any questions, feel free to email me about those in case there's something we didn't go over. That's jmcgovern@lespub.com. Also, as a final reminder, if you haven't booked your hotel yet, it's at the Hyatt Regency Cincinnati. Make sure to get that reserved as soon as possible because there is an expiry date for the summit rate. And you can find the link to the Hyatt on the American Farriers Journal website, americanfarriers.com. So again, thank you, Simon, and thank you for everyone who's watching, and look forward to seeing everybody in Cincinnati this January. Take care.